Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special Holotheatre event. I am, as always, Dan Tartaglione, also known as D Tartag1. Joining me tonight for, it feels like it's been a while, but for the first time ever, your 2025 World Champion, Mr. Greg Shaw, and
Hey, what's up, guys?
and your newest marketing advocate, Mr. Carl Koenig.
Good evening. Thanks for having me on.
Please tell me I pronounced your name right.
It's Koenig, but you get points for trying.
I quit. I'm out.
It's fine.
Uh, Koenig. Okay, I'll remember that. So, welcome again. Thanks, guys, for joining me tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about how Greg has taken over the mountain and defeated not only Joe Olson in the finals, but uh, that shadow of just being the bridesmaid.
The Void.
I think you defeated second place.
That too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, but tonight we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about Carl, how he's the newest marketing advocate. Maybe he got some spoilers to announce to people on what the marketing team is going to be doing going forward. But first, let's start off with Greg. Again, Greg, heck of a showing at the 2025 World Champions. How do you feel like after a couple weeks later?
Uh, I don't know. I guess it's sort of had a chance to sink in finally. For a while it felt just like living a dream. It's been such a long time trying to get back to even just get back to the finals. Um, and so to get there and get that check that box off the list felt really good, and it took a while to sink in. So yeah, just kind of enjoying life as a world champion now. It's different. I gotta tell you.
So, I mean, has anything changed?
No, not really.
Like, have your teammates like uh, recognized the greatness of Greg Shaw, or are they still like a bunch of people who like to make fun of you?
Well, we're a very supportive team. We do like to make fun of each other. So that hasn't changed. Um, no, I mean, it's still the same. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people who are capable of going out and winning a major or winning worlds, and they just haven't done it yet. And that's the nature of our game, right? If you're playing at the top of your game, there's a lot of things that are possible. And so for some people, they're totally capable of it. It just hasn't happened yet. And, I don't think anything changes about you from before and after that moment. So I still feel the same. Still grinding Star Wars when I get the time. I had to take a little bit of a break. I think everybody takes a little bit of downtime post Worlds, and so I had to get back into the swing of things a little bit for OCS. But I'm looking forward to when we ramp up for the Boston event.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to trying to get through this OCS playoff roster that's out there, and looking forward to playing cards still. But I feel like nothing has really changed from that perspective.
So really quick, let's talk about your OCS run. So right now, spoiler alert: you have made the top. You made the top 16. You had to face down Ryan Jelson in the your first round. Again, spoiler alert here for those who have not watched the match that was streamed last night live on the Twitch channel. This Twitch channel, by the way, or watched it on YouTube because it is on the YouTube channel. You were able to defeat Ryan. Walk us back through that match because Ryan's not the easiest of opponents, and to be honest with you, he's not the easiest of people to predict what they're going to play.
No, obviously my first thoughts were he's going to play entanglements and throne room, and I knew I wasn't going to have a lot of time to like get reps in and really figure out exactly what I wanted to play. I guess it's maybe kind of worked out because he didn't play either of those decks.
Well, he did. He played Dark Side Throne Room main.
Yeah.
He played throne room for the wrong side. Yeah. Um, No, I picked Hunt down because I was just tired of him when I do get matched up against him with Throne Room. He always senses all my stuff, and I was tired of that.
Hmm.
And what was the other matchup? Oh, I played Legend because I figured if he did play, I mean, he's not guaranteed to play entanglements, but if he did, then I would have a good chance of just taking over the system and or at least keeping him off of Tatooine for occupation, and that would certainly make the game a lot easier. So that was kind of how I landed on those decks. And yeah, we had a really interesting match. The first game, he was on that dark side pile of stuff, just like good cards kind of things with every 1/0 dark side docking bay ever printed. And I didn't really know what he was doing, so I took it really slow. He was like setting up a little drain of 2 with Vader and a cool ping with the client, which is such a cool little setup. I love that. But I didn't really know what else he was going to be doing with it, so just trying to take things slow. I had Menace Phase, I think, was in my opening hand, or I got it really early. And so I knew I could sort of, his damage potential didn't seem high, so I had a feeling I could just set up at the system and try to match pace with him for damage, and then get to a site and be able to take the damage lead. So I tried to do that. He had other plans. I think he probably had a sense of what my light side decks have been doing lately, and so he was playing IO to stop me from doing any kind of neighboring shenanigans. I had neighboring in both of my Worlds decks, day 1 and day 2. So he had IAO combo to shut that down, and he was playing, I think, 2 copies of Lana Dobreed combo to bring his stack over to me at the Jakku site where I couldn't get away from it. So that was really cool, and I had to kind of play carefully around that to stay on ground and keep the free drains going while also still trying to get a sense of what he was doing. He just had a couple of cool tricks, but mostly just good character, utility kind of characters, and based around a deck that could play Vaders and Mauls and just good cards, like you called it, Dark Side Throne Room.
Were you surprised to see Agents of the Court?
Not super surprised, but I was surprised that it wasn't a version that I had seen him play recently. It seemed like a new thing, unless he's played that recently and I missed it. It was like a new take on it from him. I felt a little good, especially early on. I had a smoking hot start with turn 1 wasn't the best. I missed my Vane pull on the site, but then I did have the bridge, and then I drew into I think both of my other Twixes. So I was just cruising after that, and I had Tarkin's orders to go get blast door controls. I had a Maul's ship. I just had a bunch of stuff. And so I felt great, and then he started doing all kinds of shenanigans and drew three blind 6s in a row, and things were starting to get a little out of hand. And that was just a fun game of Star Wars. So the first game I won by 10, and then in this hunt down game we're both just speed running, trying to take over the board.
Yeah.
And he was doing a good job wiping me off of every location, and I was trying to figure out how to keep just enough damage in to get him below 10. And I figured out on my last turn he had to lose a force to look for Vader's saber, which I couldn't deploy because Vader wasn't on the table, but I lost the force to do it. I figured he had a 6 on top, so I battled into 2 aliens with Dooku and didn't draw, and he drew a 6 for Power Destiny, which you can't decline. And he was just enough. I think I had maybe a 2 or 3 card cushion between the overflow there and Visage. Although he would have, if I didn't peel everything, he would have gotten 1 back with Din. So it worked out where I top decked all of my life force and didn't trigger Din, and he won by 9. So that was a wild game. And fast too. I think it was probably half the length of our first game that we played. That one was way more slow to develop and more grindy, and this one was just back and forth action. Lots of Battle Destiny at the system. I peeled 9 to keep my ship alive at one point.
All because of that reacting Chewie.
What's that?
All because of that reacting Chewie.
Yeah, Chewie, and then I couldn't crack him. I drew a 3+1 to become a 4, so I couldn't get rid of anybody, and he had the canceller for my second Destiny draw. And he just had a lot of stuff to throw up there in space.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a fun match. It was always cool to see what Ryan brings to the table, and it doesn't get any closer than that.
So, right off the bat, again, you advance to the top 8. Your top 8 opponent has already been revealed, is going to be Jared Klotsker. So how do you feel about going into that match?
I don't know. I guess okay. Jared also has creative decks, and so I don't really know what to expect from him either. I think he played Shadow Collective, and did he play Rescue the Princess in the first round for his light? What was he on?
Mind what you've learned.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I mean, there's no indication that he's playing those decks for the next round. So who knows
True.
what to expect. But yeah, I'm looking forward. It should be a fun match with Jared.
And just so you know, you might be the only new ally left in the field. I don't know if Matt beat Connor earlier, but
He did.
he did. So Matt
Sorry,
won.
that might be a spoiler.
That's.
Uh,
I know. I
yeah.
know it's not has. I know the video hasn't been updated to YouTube, but yeah, that's a spoiler. So you and your teammate Matt Harrison Trainer are left in the field. So
From what I've heard, people should definitely watch that when I think Goglin is going to drop it with commentary. Kind of a back and forth match from what it sounded like. But yeah, it's MHT. As far as new allies, it's MHT on one side of the bracket and me on my side of the bracket. So we're going to see if we can have a all new allies final.
So, enough about OCS. Let's get into your Worlds run. So, first things first. Let's go ahead and look at how your day one went through. So I have the who you played and what happened in each round up already. So I'm going to show that on the screen. So your first round was against Scott and Grell. Two old friends playing in the first round. You got to feel good about that, right?
Yeah. So I got to set the stage for this because this was such a funny way that it developed. I'm sure people who were there, they're not going to forget it. But if you weren't there, maybe you saw some videos or heard about it. But before the tournament started, we had Scott's 50th birthday, surprise birthday celebration for Scott, which was, a little emotional. We all showed Scott how much we appreciate him and everything he's done for the community. And, obviously none of us would be here if it weren't for Scott. But it was also meaningful for me because I've known Scott. Scott was the tournament director of the very first tournament I went to, very first local Star Wars tournament I went to. So I've known Scott forever. And it was just, I was very happy for him. And so I knew that was happening. I helped with some of the logistics of getting that put together. I did not know that Brian Fred was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, another one of my friends for a long time in this game. And so I was very happy for him. So both of those things happened. Already the vibes for the weekend are at an all-time high with kicking off with two great events. And then they call pairings for the first game. And not only am I facing Scott, who has the whole room on his side for being an old man, a lovable old man. And then at the game next to me, I don't remember who was it. Somebody was playing Brian Fred.
Oh,
so
gosh.
Across the table from me is Scott and Brian, the two people that the room just celebrated. And then I'm feeling very, lopsided in terms of, way that the vibes are headed right now. So I have to sit down against Scott, and he's playing Mind What You Have Learned, the new one, the virtual one. I have Shadow Collective. I think I had either a Disarmed in hand or a chance to draw into one based on what was active. And so I went very aggressively to a site to try to set up, he's going to come down or maybe have to move into me at some point, and I'll be able to get off a Disarmed on one of his weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the specifics, but things just kind of go off the rails. Like I didn't draw into much of my defensive stuff, and he just ends up throwing down guy after guy after guy, and all of a sudden he's got much better board than me, and I'm like, oh god, this is not good. He does have the vibes on his side, and he's got somebody draining for a bunch at my first light site. He's got a couple of damage. It's just out damaging me, and the math is not working in my favor. And then finally, I pull off some crazy battle where I get, I think I operate somebody after hitting them, and then Wounded Warrior, another character who was there alone. And so I think it was Leia maybe or Sabine. And it's now with no power, no destiny. And all of a sudden, Scott's peeling 10 cards. And I just flipped the math, and so I've sort of stole that one. If it had played out without the Wounded Warrior overflow, Scott was going to get it, but I managed to sneak one through on the back of some tricksy red card stuff in Shadow Collective. So that was it felt like kind of a rocky start. I went in with high hopes, and decks that I was pretty comfortable with, and right off the bat, felt like I almost let one get away.
So then on to game 2, you played against Jessup Miyashiro with your light side. Again, light side was legend at this point. Do you recall what happened in that round?
Yeah, so he's on ISB. Another one where it was kind of slow to develop. He is not in any rush to go to space when there's only one system on the table. And I guess he did put out his system pretty early, like Corlag or something. And we were both just kind of like building a hand and not wanting to be the first one to commit. And so he's like doing some activation stuff with Emperor and people at his non-battleground docking base to get a bonus from established control. And I'm just trying to set up stuff so I don't. So I didn't have a Hujix in that build of Legend. So I had to be careful about what I threw down to sites, because if he's just going to amass a bunch of power and draw a bunch of Battle Destiny, that's going to be bad news. So I'm taking it slowly. I think I set some stuff up in space and then eventually put out the Takadana site and a couple of people there. He had a few guys out and was like flipped and just draining for 2 at a docking bay. And then put the spaceport docking bay to Takadana and like moved a small stack of dudes over. And then again, I was able to get out Menace Fades. I got to the system and it was just kind of like dancing around a little bit. He didn't have any big characters committed. He had kind of like a moderate stack, but I think it was enough people to play Dark Collaboration, so I had to sort of play around that. But then I start getting like ping retrieval going with Ray. I'm draining for 2. We eventually get a battle at one of the sites, and I'm able to flip. So I have like a drain of 2 that turns into a drain of 3 at Jakku, all while kind of like holding serve on ground and moving. We have stacks of guys that were just shuffling back and forth between the 2 Takadana sites. And then eventually he gets a ship with like 2 dudes over to Kurlag, so now he's able to drain. He gets another docking bay set up with like Emperor and one of the ISB agents, and he's blocking me. A lot of the time he's blocking me from keeping Menace Fades turned on, so he's got like a drain of 2 and a drain of 1, and he's got his ping retrieval going with ISB. And we're getting pretty close. I feel like in the long run I'm going to win, but it's still like super close. And every turn I want to go throw something down to Korlag, another ship to Korlag with like 2 dudes on it to clear him out. I'm always like 1 force shy of being able to do that and also shuffle my stack over to the other site to avoid getting wiped out by his ISB stack. So I finally am able to get some stuff like, keep enough guys down on the ground, get another ship over and start battling him in space to clear him out. And then he's still got this little drain of 2 going. I am pretty sure that game went to time and I won on differential. And it was super tight. I felt like I was going to get there after kicking him out of space, but we didn't have enough turns to finish that. But that was one of the things I was sort of afraid of with Legend is that it was going to be very grindy and a lot of dull decision making throughout the course of the day. And that game was a highlight of that. And not a lot of like interesting interactions, just a lot of, thinking about which characters you're going to commit to which theater. Because once you do, you have a hard time getting them back. So there wasn't a whole lot. We had only maybe a handful of battles went to time, and I won on time. So not super thrilling.
Okay, so round 3. Again, you're back on Legend against AJ's Dark Side. Tell us a little bit about this one, if you can.
This game was a little more interesting.
We did my son wrong.
What's that?
You did my son wrong.
Sorry, listen. Sometimes you gotta teach these punk kids a lesson, all right?
Exactly.
No, I love AJ. He's great. He went pretty fast for some standard like EOP sort of setup where he flips and tries to get a drain of 2. I think he had like wanted his sights in a different order at one point in the game. I can't remember if that was early on or what, but he's like at the system with Slave 1 draining for 2 and add a site or 2 draining for another 2 and 1 or something like that. And so I have to start throwing stuff down. I don't remember exactly what I had, but at one of my sites was like Solo and Chewie and Anakin maybe. I think I trapped a battle of his where he came down with like Maul and some other dudes. And so I trapped the battle and maybe disarmed somebody. But we get in this situation where he was spreading on his Endor sites trying to do damage. And that morning I decided to put Neighbor and Leads in my deck. And so I end up getting him in a situation. I think he was trying to let his Maul get into the action so he could probably redeploy, do more stuff with him. I get him in this weird situation where he moves away because he doesn't want to get like disarmed and sorry about the mess, and he's like spreading his guys out. And so I neighboring over a bunch of guys in front of Dooku, I think. And then he has a small hand, but he tries to Ellis away. And
Oops.
fortunately, he draws big and can't Ellis away. And I think one of the cards he had saved in his force pile, he only had like 2 or 3 saved in his force pile, and he drew a 5 or something like that. One of the few cards that he had saved in his force pile was his Gick. And so I ended up getting big overflow with his neighbor, and then I just threw into the deck the morning of the tournament. And that put me just kind of in the driver's seat, right? He was trying to piece together whatever he could. I'm like sometimes draining at Jakku, sometimes chasing him in space, and just taking over some big drains on the ground. And once Legend is flipped, he couldn't really stay on 3 battlegrounds without exposing himself to like Leia retrieval or potential overflow. And so he just had a hard time coming back from that overflow. And so that was nice. Neighboring led to a quick victory. I was very happy that I had added Neighboring to the deck at that point, because it got me a nice quick win with Legend, which is the deck I didn't want to be grinding all day with.
There you go. So then in round 4, you had the privilege of facing off against your teammate, Mr. Mike Kessling. How did that go?
Hey, he whooped me. We had a pretty good game.
I walked by. He didn't whoop you. It was close.
It was close. He was playing his WAP deck that was sort of tuned for First Order, but he had an earlier build that was like all in on going after First Order, and then he tweaked some stuff around to make it a little more balanced, which I did not like because I was playing Shadow Collective, and so the stuff that he was less all in on for First Order made him better equipped to handle my Shadow Collective deck. So
Like
I think, I mean, it was that
like the Odin combo.
Yeah, I tried to play Disarmed 2 times, and I think he canceled both of them. And or maybe I only played it once and it got canceled, and he disarmed me once or twice successfully. I may have the numbers wrong, but yeah, I didn't get it off on Disarmed, and he got off 2. I think that's what it was. And so that made it very difficult to, Shadow Collective with no weapons makes it hard to clear stuff, especially Jedi. So yeah, we did have a pretty close game. I don't remember too many of the particulars about it, except for he got more disarms than I got.
So then,
yeah, that was the undefeated run came to an end. But I was happy to lose. Happy to lose to Mike.
I mean, how could you not be happy losing to Mike?
Oh, you can be not happy losing to Mike. But if I have to lose, then I don't mind losing to Mike or anybody on my team.
True. So then, in round 5 and 6, you had the pleasure of playing off against Phil. 5, you came out winning, but 6, he got the better of you.
Yeah, 5 was the game. I guess that's when he was on Watch Your Step. I was on Shadow Collective. Watch Your Step was one of the decks that we were very happy to see the meta kind of develop into as a counter to First Order, because Shadow Collective just feels like a very well-positioned deck to handle that. You just have so many tools for, it's easy to shoot smugglers, and then they can't be forfeited to satisfy attrition. You have typically you have a couple of options of where to put First Light and survive for a couple turns while you get your damage going, and you just, they give you enough icons that you can really generate some fast damage. So against Phil, that's sort of what I did. I think like turn 2 or 3, I had like three sights with blasters at them and was ready to ping him for a bunch, and then either like go to space or just pay to drain and draw a bunch. And so I felt like I was really putting the pressure on him. And there was something that happened. I'm trying to remember what happened in that game. It's gonna kill me. Oh, that's right. I saw a Hujix in his deck. On a verify, I saw Hujix was still in there, and so I had an opportunity to get a beatdown in and went for it and was successful. I don't remember. I think it involved a Wounded Warrior or something. But it was just, put the pressure on, make him try to keep up with limited resources available to him. And once I saw the Hujix in the deck, I knew it was just time to go for it. And so that was a fairly easy win. Then game 6 was sort of the reverse. He was on First Order, I was on Legend, and he was doing first order stuff, and I was not doing legend stuff. My deck was just like not really coming together, and he had his like uh, drains going pretty quickly. I think he was like he didn't have the ideal setup, but legend kind of gives that deck some time to set up if it's not firing on all its cylinders. And so yeah, I had like I think Luke was active, and so I had to burn my once per game on him, and I think I don't know all kinds of stuff. I only ever found one ship, so it was like turn 4, and he was doing a bunch of damage and had a really good board position. I was just like, let's just call it. I don't want you to see more of what's in my deck at this point, so I just scoop it. So yeah, he got payback on me.
Okay, round 7, you faced off against another teammate, Barry. This again with your Shadow Collective. How'd that go?
Barry's not a new allies.
Oh, he's not.
No. Friend of the team. We love Barry, but he's not.
Barry's a friend of everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Barry is Barry. Doesn't he have a little thing going with Team 5, or is he?
I really don't know.
He does his own thing, and then Hayes tries to fix his deck, and then he just says, "I'm gonna play Watto."
Well, I didn't see what he was playing for deck. I was on Shadow Collective, and he was on Prophet, and there were a lot of things that didn't go his way. Like he missed a bunch of easy swings on people, and I was just like shooting everybody. That was a pretty quick game. A lot of his stuff died, and not enough of my stuff died. I think he tried, like, if he neighbored, it was expensive, and he tried to swing lightsabers or draw battleless, and it was low, and I was just like drawing blind 7s and stuff. So everybody, all the light side characters got shot and died, and that was a pretty quick game for us.
And then your last round, you face off against Jeff Levine in essentially what was a win-in game.
Yeah.
How did that one go with your legend?
I was super stressed going into it because I knew that there was a chance for a repeat performance of the game against Phil from 2 rounds ago and 2 games ago, and so I was very stressed about going into it. But Jeff had a slower start than Phil had, and I had so much more stuff come together for a legend. He, all of Team 5, they were not playing as many tricks in space, and so once I got like a ship or 2 down, he just let me keep tracked fleet, and he went to like 2 other systems with just a ship and had it protected by barrier or something. But it's just turned into a drain race. I had menace fades. He didn't flip because I had stacked system and had tracked fleet. We did like a little back and forth with sometimes he would like bring supremacy over if I let the tracked fleet system get a little light. But it, we were just kind of maneuvering back and forth at systems. I never let him flip, and I just had to kind of maneuver around a big ground battle going in his favor. And just between all my tricks, it's a trap, disarmed, all that stuff, I had tools to set up my own big drain and then out damage him. I mean, it was kind of a boring game, but it was like exactly what I wanted to execute with the legend game. Is not let them flip, set up better damage than them because they're not flipped, and just kind of control the game from there. And that's how it played out.
So really quick, so again, you make the top 8 again on that after going 6-2. And so before we get into your top 8 matches, let's go ahead and here. I'm actually here on the screen right now. We have your Shadow Collective. First of all, what made you go with Shadow Collective, and why this Shadow Collective in particular?
This was right after the Ohio Major. Drew on our team, Drew Lichtenstein, he had been looking at the decks that were popular for light side, and he was like, hey, I really like this idea of Shadow Collective that doesn't play a system. There's a lot of light side decks that punish you for playing a system if you're not careful, and so let's just get rid of the system, always start security precautions, and let's run a couple copies of Disarmed, because all of these decks, like Mind What You Have Learned, we thought would be a little more popular, and coming off of the heels of Ohio, what did see a bump in popularity. But these decks like Rescue the Princess and Mind What You Have Learned, they don't have the deck slots to account for stuff like First Order, and also stuff that wants to battle them and disarm them. Like they're not going to play Stunning Leader cancelers and disarmed cancelers and all the stuff they need to hang with First Order, right? So it's really, and they play sites that are conducive to Stunning Leader, so you can set up your own damage and race them. We added Decree to race rescue the princess if you didn't feel like you could fight them. And these sites are you're playing interiors for Stunning Leader, they're playing interiors already. It's just perfectly set up to go very wide, very aggressive, and you just have the advantage of when they try to match you going wide, you have like Stunning Leader disarmed, Stunning Leader wounded warrior, defensive fire Stunning Leader, and then counter beat on your turn. You just have so many options when they try to keep pace with you. You're just so much more equipped for it, and so many decks just don't have the capacity right now to have counters for it. So yeah, for Dark, I played the same 60 cards for 5 out of my 6 OCS games in, what was that, September? 5 out of my 6 games, I played 59 of the same 60 cards. I changed 1 card in the last game I played. Then I played that exact same list day 1, and then the exact same list for day 2. Drew put together just a total beast of a deck. We had, like, other members on the team had some different opinions on a couple card slots. I got ragged on a lot for playing as few characters as I did. But I, like, the counts of everything just felt like perfect to me. It is a little light on characters. You have to kind of be thoughtful about how you commit your characters and where you're going to put them, when you're going to put them down or hold them for later. But I just felt like the deck had all the tools, and so yeah, I didn't change anything through 6-0 in OCS, through day 1 and into day 2. I was just like, this is the deck.
So we do have a question in the chat. Did you ever use the Decree V as a battle card against Mind What You Have Learned V?
I don't think that came up. I mean, I would deploy it on the table just in case, but I don't think I ended up not playing against it enough for that to have come up. But yeah, it's a good call.
No, Greg, I have a specific question. Did you decide not to change decks between day 1 and day 2 for Darkside because you were so hungry from not eating dinner Saturday night?
No, did I eat dinner Saturday night?
You were part of the epic crew that put in a huge Taco Bell order that was canceled 3 times.
I was not. I was emotionally invested in them getting their order, but I was.
We all were. We thought you were hangry when you were trying to sit there and figure out your deck.
No, I had actually at one point, like, just from the time zone change and everything, I started talking about decks and possibilities with a bunch of people on my team, and I needed to go just like lay down and take a power nap. So I ended up doing that, and then regrouping with everybody after the Taco Bell order had been placed. So I think I ended up having some like cold slices of pizza that were from the lunch order. I was just like, this is here, this is my dinner. I'm gonna go lay down.
That's fair. So why Boba Fett V over another character?
Boba Fett is awesome.
Exchange.
Kind of like, okay, so obviously the swap text is great, right? If they battle into you, you can swap for defensive fire or stunning leader, or just a character if you happen to be low on characters in hand, because you only play like 13 characters. But the swap is just really powerful, and setting up the combo of like defensive fire wounded warrior or defensive fire stunning leader or whatever, that's really good. He also is a pilot, which is kind of underrated. There's not a lot of pilots that are great for throwing on first light. Like Shizor loses a lot of his value if he's piloting versus being down on the ground, potentially threatening somebody's Battle Destiny draw ability. So just like having a body that has a reasonable forfeit, can pilot first light if you need to, and can hold a gun and does a swap. I mean, he just like kind of has a lot of utility in the deck, I think. So yeah, he's in there over like Mighty Jabba. Mighty Jabba was a guy that we were all just tired of. Like, yeah, he's a gangster, but
he's too expensive.
The fact that he can't hold a gun, and he's very expensive. That just makes him unappetizing. So yeah, we went with Boba Fett.
Okay. We do have another question in the chat. Any thoughts on running Sith Fury, being that you ran a lot of, you were low on characters?
Well, if you don't have characters, you're never going to draw them for Destiny. So you don't need this Sith Fury or anything.
Yeah.
No, that's a card that, yeah, I mean, people have played that before. I don't have a high priority on it in that build of Shadow Collective. There's other builds of Shadow Collective where you might want that, and you might have room for it. But for like all the red cards that we had were just so perfectly balanced. I don't think there's room for Sith Fury. There's also like we played Ruck, which hasn't been in everybody's Shadow Collective list before. Ruck is amazing. If you the games where you do get Ruck going, he just like filters the deck out so phenomenally. You're flipping every turn, and so he filters the deck out. He sets up destinies, and so something like Sith Fury, when you have little things that are sort of helping you filter through the deck, like Boba Fett, like Ruck, like Lady Proxima, things that are helping you get guys out already. I just feel like Sith Fury doesn't really have enough value for that deck, for that build of the deck.
Okay. Moving on to your light side, why Legend? Like, this feels like it's a little out of left field right now.
So Legend was sort of a meta call for First Order. The fact that you disrupt their immunity to attrition and can get a very reasonable space fleet assembled quickly. I mean, it's still not quick enough to match what First Order does, right? They put out a ton of stuff, a ton of power, super fast, and very consistently. So you're not going to be able to compete against that directly, but just like giving you decent ships, decent characters, ability to stack everything and stop them from flipping. Like usually you can get it all together in time that your 3 movements are enough to set up your own little fleet. You can also there's an opportunity to throw a track fleet over to Octo and make them move to a non-battleground system. So there's just like a lot of little things that sort of set it up. But the biggest thing was the immunity. Yeah, I don't know. Leia's Saber is the other big thing that made it big. Leia's Saber, adding one to defense value and immunity. So it's really good on Rey. It's also really good, like if you just have Rey and Leia together and you give the Saber to Leia, now you have 2 characters who are both immune to less than 5. And so with the redraw, it gives you a lot of opportunities to not lose anything in the battle.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of like a sort of control deck that seemed like it had a couple of favorable meta things going for it.
So why no Anakin's lightsaber?
We did at various points have Anakin's saber in or Jedi lightsaber in, but they're just like a little too clunky. Even with 3PO, a lot of times I'll use my once per game on 3PO just to get early cycling with force projection. And even with that, it just feels like you still have to draw into one, and then you have like a floating 1 or a floating 2, and it wasn't super desirable to have that. Just like one saber that could go on either Leia or Rey or Ben, just felt like the right call. Like just play one copy of the good saber.
And I love the fact that you included collision into the deck.
Yeah, I never got to play it, but that was that was actually my answer for. I was trying to figure out what to do against Senate. Also, Senate could have been a problem.
Oh,
so I had cards swapping in and out that would help against Senate, and I ended up just going with collision and R2 to maybe keep the attrition low enough that I only lose 1 thing per battle. And then the collision would have been if they ever park 2 ships out of system and they have to lose 1 of them, they're in real bad shape. And obviously, same thing with First Order. If they ever put 2 Star Destroyers and all of a sudden they have to lose 1 of them, like they're gonna be in for a rough time. But I never pulled it off at all day 1, so big bummer.
So you already mentioned the fact that your dark side essentially was the same deck from day 1 to day 2. For your light side, though, you switched over to Luke Saga. First of all, why Luke Saga? And holy crap, this one is interesting, just by a few card choices.
Yeah, it's a deck that I think MHT was the originator of, unless he borrowed it from somewhere. But it had been kind of a known entity for a little while. But for whatever reason, it hasn't been as popular lately. And I like having played Legend a bunch in playtesting and then all 4 games of day one. I wanted something that was just like a different pace to the game, like a little more aggressive, assertive. Could be a little more reactive rather than like instantaneously reactive, rather than just like slow, grindy, set up its own control thing. And so I wanted a deck that could put pressure on people. I like that idea for a match better than Legend. And I just like that was a deck that I had a decent amount of reps with, and I had a line for First Order that I was surprised more people hadn't explored, and I had only thought about it in theory. I never really play tested with it, but it was a deck that I was very interested in playing. Unfortunately, it was also the very last light side deck that I cut from my cards that I brought with me to Seattle. So I had to ask Charlie and Brian if I could use their physical deck, and we went to bed thinking that I would probably build that, and then it ended up in the morning I committed to it, and we had to scramble like a half hour before decks were due. I was like going to their room making.
I should have just handed you mine
for like the last 5 minutes. What's that?
I should have just handed you mine, because before I went to bed, I was like, so this is what you're thinking about, huh? And I was like, because we talked about that line, and I was like, that's the only way I beat it in testing.
Yeah, and props to Keith, who I was like, I went on to Gemp just to like play around with the deck list, and I saw Keith Brown was in a game against somebody, and I was like, this was probably like 1:30 in the morning Seattle time.
Yeah.
And so I was tired, but I had that 30-minute power nap, and I was like, hey Keith, do me a favor and give me a couple turns with this deck, and it was really helpful. That was part of what sold me on the deck, was just like seeing how that matchup went. And I didn't even do I did some poor things in that game, and so I was like, okay, well, at least I know what not to do tomorrow with this. But I can see the potential there. It seemed like First Order was winnable, not like a guarantee or anything, but you had some reasonable lines you could take, and I just like the idea of that deck against just like in general what I thought people might show up with. Nothing like specific, but just a feeling of like a deck that's a little more assertive and aggressive is going to do better than Legend.
Yeah. So speaking of which, what was that line that you're talking about with this Luke Saga against the First Order deck?
Well, one is like with the Super Tidarium space package, you just let them flip, and so their immunity is not capped anymore, or their immunity is not, they're not fully immune with Supremacy.
Right.
It's whatever, less than 10 or 12 or whatever it is. And so then once you let them flip, then you throw down Super Tidarium and just blow up whatever they have at one system. Or what was yours? Were you
the ground package where you just put Luke alone, and then you Jedi focus out, and then you can counter beat in to the other piece. So.
Yeah, I mean that's like such a. Sorry, I wasn't thinking that was a First Order only thing in my mind. No. That's like just one of the cool things that the deck does.
Yes, that is great, but against
I love that card. Yeah. So you're right. We were talking about that as like. You and Brian were both telling me the same thing, right? It's like if you throw down Luke, they battle into you. You hit somebody with the saber. You Jedi's focus out, and then on your turn they just have one less guy, and you've still got.
Especially
Luke.
When they're playing the Kylo effects, where it's like he can cancel swings. So you go after like one of the stupid troopers, take care of that, and then you just Jedi focus out of the battle, and then you can go back.
Yeah, and I mean you can do other things too, like. Han Optimistic General also cancels Kylo's text, so there's not going to go to space. There's lines where you just drop Han on Kylo and stop them from uploading.
He's just a dude.
Yeah, and now he's just a dude. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do, and I mean that deck is like, it's also just really fun to play. Shout out Chris Kelly. It's always a fun time when you have it. With
speaking of Chris Kelly, he is in the chat and he says you're welcome.
Thanks, Chris. Hope to see you in New York in a couple weekends for the regional, maybe.
So into the top 8, your first opponent is Pat Johnson. I believe Pat was on First Order and Rescue the Princess. How did you feel about those two matchups?
Pretty good. The First Order was a little scary because it was my first time playing like a meaningful game. I had the one playtest game against Keith, and so I was sort of figuring it out. But the first one we played was he opted for Rescue the Princess, game one. And I went pretty good. It was a similar thing to my game against Scott, right? I think I had a disarmed in hand, so I wanted to be the first one to go to the central core, whatever it is, the main site for Rescue the Princess. So I just went down with like Dryden and a gun, maybe. And he should, and I was trying to,
I know where this is going.
I tried to represent that I would have like a stunning leader or a defensive fire, and I didn't actually have any of that or draw into it. And so he just came down turn one with Luke and Blaster and tried to fight me, and I had nothing for it. And we both drew like zeros and ones, like nobody got hit, and I didn't even have to lose Dryden.
I'm pretty sure Pat drew 0-1-0.
Yeah, it was bad.
Oh, that's terrible.
He drew 1 to add to power and then a 0 for destiny.
Yeah, I think I might have won the battle by 1 power or something, like something absurd, some absurd outcome. So fortune favors the bold, as they say, and I was able to turn that game around pretty comfortably from there. But a lot of things kind of hinged on the outcome of that battle, and I would have been in a way worse position if he had even just managed to clear. And probably it could have been a lot worse for me in some scenarios too. So things worked out well for me in that first battle, and then from there it was just like cruising. I was doing so much damage. I think I might have restraining bolted C-3PO. Like I was just doing all the things against Rescue the Princess that I needed to do. And so that was a pretty comfortable one. I don't remember the number exactly. But
it was like 19.
20. Yeah. I mean, he did what he had to do, and rightfully assessed that was going to be a profitable battle for him, and he just had a really bad variance. So that sort of set the stage for the second game. It was just, didn't have to play to win, just had to play to get him under 19 or whatever it was. Yeah. I don't remember much about that second game.
So then, moving on into the semis, you had to face off against our newest Hall of Famer, Mr. Brian Fred. How did that one go?
I mean, Brian and I have had a couple of meetings lately, and he got the better of me in which tournament was that? I was one of the New Jersey ones, right? 2 years ago.
Yes.
And
the
so
Nationals last year.
Yeah. And so I don't know, we've both been playing pretty well, pretty consistently, and so it's nice to just have a more relaxed match. I mean, we were both very hungry for it. We both, neither of us had a world championship to our name, so both super hungry for it. Would we play? I actually don't remember which one did we play first. We played
WAP and your Shadow Collective first.
That was the first one. Okay. So that one, I had, again, a couple of things sort of go my way. I think I had a barrier on his first guy that he played, and so he couldn't walk it into the hallway. And so he was sort of amassing a stack of guys, and I had a huge stack of guys as well already in the throne room. He was working up a stack to walk in, and then I think he put out Camino. I think he went to space first. And I also went to space, and I was thinking, like, two things could happen. One is, like, if I contested him in space, he would have to commit more resources to space, and that would stop him from walking into the throne room and starting the clock on a battle there. So as long as he's not committing resources to the ground and he wasn't ready to move into the throne room yet, I had, like, Aura Singh, Proxima, I don't know, some other dude. I had, like, 4 or 5 dudes there.
Yeah.
And as long as he wasn't walking in, I'm getting 3 damage from there, right? I'm getting a ping and a drain of 2. And while I'm at the system, I'm doing that for free. And while I'm at the system, he's got to throw down more resources there that takes away from his ability to walk in. So that was one thing that I thought could happen. And the other was if he did underdeploy or wasn't able to find what he needed, then... So I think I actually deployed to space first. Because I know at one point he was having trouble matching the Admiral with Salute, I think is the one that he was playing. And so I think I threw it down with just one pilot on it and maybe a gun or something. And so my thinking was I could either draw reasonably well, and if he went down, maybe he showed me he had a solo or something, or I just knew solo was one of the guys who's going to put aboard the ship. So if he puts down the admiral and solo, and I draw just something that cracks his immunity, then I was planning to, I think maybe like no escape the ship back, or somehow get something special for the ship back, or something to get the ship back. And I knew that I had counterbeat potential where I could clear one guy out on my turn and then redeploy first light with a pilot, and with the total battle destiny bonus I could clear him out entirely on the battle back on my turn. So that was one option, and the other was just like generally have him use some resources in space, which will buy me more turns of draining for 3. And I think I drew really well or something, and he I think maybe it was like a 7 or a 6, and then with the bonus, he, like, on the turn that he dropped and battled me, he had to lose both guys, or if he had, I think it was both guys, and so he just had a naked resolute for my turn, and I was like, okay, well, that actually worked out really well. I don't even think he cleared me. He didn't crack my immunity. He drew poorly.
I saw Brian in between, and he goes like, "Greg's on a heater." That's all he said to me as he just walked away.
I love that.
Yeah. I was feeling it. The cards were one with me for a couple of the games in these matches. I think he drew so poorly that I don't even think I got cracked. Wow. Maybe I had like Maul and or Dark Time he wouldn't. So I lose nothing. He loses solo and the Admiral, and then I just like throw down enough stuff to wipe him out of space completely. Now I'm draining for free. I'm at the system. He eventually gets a big battle off and clears like all of my dudes out of the throne room, but I've still got the system, and I've got some stuff going on first light to get some more damage in. Then so he clears me pretty much entirely out of the throne room, and no, it was entirely out of the throne room. And he had one guy left. I think he had like Kit Fisto with a saber there, and I think he might have had somebody else already at first light, or I knew it was. I had no gas left in my hand at this point, and he had Amidala in hand. I think he had like 2 or 3 cards in hand, and so I knew he was going to put Amidala down and flip, and get a drain going. I think he must have had somebody at Naboo still, and somebody at the first light. And I was like, actually, he could start piling on damage. I didn't have Decree, so it was going to be 2 per turn from his objective, and if he wanted to pay 6, that was going to be like 4 more. Like, he was potentially going to be paying 6 to do 6 every turn, and he was going to be out damaging me at that point, even though I had a huge head start. So I flip on my turn, and in the draw phase, I peek at my force pile. I have a ton of stuff there because, like I said, no gas in hand. I think I had one character who was like a character that was like a Shizor, and Shizor was already on table. And so in my force pile is Decree, a bunch of characters towards the bottom, and 2 copies of Point Man along the way to get to those cards. So I'm just whatever, I'm drawing all of that, and I'll start Point Manning stuff back. And then Brian made me look very silly by just drawing up on the next turn. But I figured it was like, if I didn't draw up for that stuff and he played the game out, he was probably going to get me down to about where I landed on cards anyway. So I had to draw up for some stuff to not turn that into a much closer game than it was. But yeah, it was Shadow Collective was really working in my favor in that game.
There you go. So then in your last round, it was you against 3-time world champion, also fellow Hall of Famer Joe Olsen. What was your mindset?
Are we going to gloss over the other game against Brian where I was Hitko, or not Hitko, I was Luke Saga against his Invasion?
Oh, I forgot about that.
I'll give you the 2-minute thing. He doesn't play any sites. I put Yoda down to just like pay 3 and drain for 1 while he sets up stuff. I found my activation, and he doesn't really have much activation, so I was activating. Well, he has a bridge in there, I guess, but I was activating like 14 to his 9 or something. So eventually, we just started throwing guys into the throne room, and I had Skywalkers in back-to-back battles, and that was pretty much it. He scooped after that. So yeah, then anyway, go ahead on to Joe.
So, how did you feel going into the finals against Joe?
Well, it's such a. I mean, I was already happy with everything that had happened in the weekend, and going into the top four, knowing that it was going to be Joe and Hayes on one side and me and Brian on another. It was not fun to know that either me or Brian would be knocked out after that, but it was also super comfortable going in knowing that one of us was going to have a chance to play for a world's title. And so, very fortunate that it was me to come out of that against Brian. But just like looking at the other side, Joe and Hayes, it's just like those are both great final bosses. If you're looking purely at credentials, like Joe, 3-time world champion. So not only am I playing for myself to get the monkey off my back and finally win a world championship, but I'm also playing to keep Joe from being the first 4-time world champion.
Yeah.
So there was some pressure, man. It was I was feeling it a little.
You want to hear something interesting?
Sure.
So you are the first world champion besides a Team 5, KTOD, or Bastion since 2016.
Wow. That's a long run by those guys, and impressive that Bastion is just like a one-man show.
Yeah, yeah.
What a beast. Yeah.
So can you tell me who the last person was?
2016.
Tom Hayes.
Carl. Yeah. There you go, Carl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had.
I've been having to study up on some things with the PC, given my new role.
Well, funny enough, if you notice, like, Greg, you're on Wikipedia, by the way. It does say...
Robbie showed me that. I made it big on the Wikipedia.
So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the Joe match really quick. I mean, this is online already. Again, this one is on the YouTube already.
Right, so people can go watch it if they don't want to hear me talk about it. I don't know. It was draining, man. Trying to play anything against First Order in a high stakes game like that, just like so draining. It's just like, man, one misstep and I'm gonna get overflowed for 30 cards because of the power they can generate, especially with the Taunton Skulls, and you don't know if they're playing like Ellis's or what they're doing exactly. That was one of the things that our team had been talking about all weekend. It was just like when you first sit down against a First Order deck, they basically have like an 80 or 90 card deck, right? Because there's some things that all First Order decks do, but then there's usually another direction that they're going in, and you don't know what tricks they have until you get like a verify or you start to see some actual cards of what they're doing. So that's always kind of like, it makes it such a hard deck to approach. And even though all their whole team played that the day before, you don't know, like, okay, did they swap out some of the, like, are they heavy on space tricks now, or are they even more all in on trooper beats, or like you don't really know what they could have changed from one day to another. So yes, it's not the most comfortable position to be in, but I knew I had some stuff that I could do, and I ended up getting the early big battle with Tiderium and taking over a system, which is like you feel so good about it. You're like, oh yeah, I got rid of that ship. You're like, okay, well now I just used like a lot of really good resources. I got this drain of 1.
Oh yeah.
But it is important because you just need like free drains later in the game. So there were times when I could have maybe considered landing and having more dudes to fight on the sites, but just like having the free drains going was pretty key in that game. It was just like a lot of posturing back and forth on sites, and neither one of us wanting to like overcommit to any one particular site, and having a little bit of a stare down and keeping the damage going. And I think I tried to neighbor in late game, and Joe had a canceller, and then I mistracked something. I lost track of a low destiny that I had, and I tried to neighbor in again, but I missed it. And then Joe told me after that he had a second canceller for neighboring, so that was kind of funny. But yeah, just like some late game stuff and thinking about what the optimal decisions were. I definitely made a couple of mistakes, and I don't think Joe took the optimal line at one point where he could have like moved his Kylo stack over to the salt plains and stopped me from draining for a turn. Just because I moved one character over on Cloud City when I should have moved over two. But yeah, he had like, somebody draining on my Cloud City non-battleground. He was trying to like just throwing lone ships down. Once I had Tydirium committed, he was just like, okay, one ship's going to this system, one ship's going to this system, and trying to maximize his damage there. It was a very fun game to play, especially after you sort of like weather the early game against First Order, and then it becomes a little bit more fair fight. Then you get a little more comfortable once you know what they're doing and seeing what characters they've committed to certain locations. But it still feels like you're walking on a tightrope because like you have to think about these battles against somebody like Vic Roll is just like sitting there force draining you for a couple turns, and now he's like big power. If you try to fight him with somebody, they could like taunt and skull to put a dot pellet out of play, and all of a sudden they're like 20 power with one dude. So you just always have to be on your toes and be mindful of what they might be able to do in battles, and not let yourself get exposed that way. So yeah, that was like a very draining game. I feel like I did a lot of good things, and my reward for doing all those good things was a stupid little win by 5. Which, obviously you'd much rather be ahead 5 than down 5, but
yeah,
man, it's like it's so deflating when you're like, okay, well, that game might not even amount to anything. Might be all in game 2.
So then what? So going into game 2, you're up by 5. What was your mindset?
It's a great matchup. I didn't want to get ahead of myself, obviously, because Joe's a great player and he knows, what I'm trying to do, and he's seen the way that people playing Shadow Collective on my team and even me against Phil, like he probably has a sense of what it is that we're trying to do against Watch Your Step. I was feeling very good. It's a favorable matchup for me. But I also know that I can't just kind of let things get out of control and let him. Joe's obviously not afraid to take some more aggressive lines, especially if it's a calculated risk in a matchup where he might feel like he's behind. What types of things is he going to do to maybe take a couple smaller gambles early to put himself in a better position going forward. So I'm just trying to think about like different things he might do, and he gets the early drain set up with Han at the Falcon, and I think it was the very first drain I took. There's 2 cards off the top, and one of them is First Light. I was just like, great. Now, like this game that's supposed to be easy, like set up ground damage, and then put the First Light to Tatooine or Kessel, and put some dudes on it, and survive in space, pouring on damage on the ground. Right? That's the general game plan. And now I can't do that because First Light is getting buried, and so I can't no escape for it. If I want to get back to that game plan, I either have to find something special to get a once per game ship retrieval, or I have to find what is it? Never ask that question, or whatever it is. Never ask twice.
I never asked twice.
Never asked twice. So I have to find that to do like a once per game swap. So it's like 3 cards to get back 1 card. So it's just like great. Now like this very plus matchup in one of the most important games, the most important game of my Star Wars career, and as Kessling would say, I've got to play it on hard mode. Yeah. So that wasn't a fun feeling. And also I could say now that I could feel it, man. And having played like the time zone change and having played 8 games on Saturday and having played 2 matches, I was not playing A+ quality Star Wars in that second game. And there are a lot of mistakes that I made. And I like every time I made one, I had to like take a bunch of deep breaths and like calm myself down and get back into the moment and like feel the game. I was just getting frustrated and was like, okay, do not let yourself get tilted here because it's still a very winnable game. But Joe was doing, he was putting on as much damage as he could. He was being as aggressive as he could. He was making good decisions and like putting me in tough spots with the guys he was putting out, and using his EPP Lukes very effectively. And so I did finally find something special planned for them. I got my ship back, but I screwed up one battle really poorly where he battled in with Luke so this was after he choked Prince Shizor at the docking bay, and then battled in with EPP Luke, and somebody held up the game because they thought it was a virtual choke, and by the time we got back to actually playing the game, I had forgotten that Shizor had been choked, So I'm sitting there doing math, thinking I'm getting a Battle Destiny when I wasn't. But I did make a mistake. I had Stunning Leader and Wounded Warrior and Defensive Fire. I had it all. But so he battles into me, and I play the Defensive Fire to shoot. And now the decision is, do I play the Stunning Leader to just negate the battle, get rid of Luke off the table, and keep Prince Caesar on the ground, or do I not Stunning Leader, play the Wounded Warrior to make Luke power 0 and no Battle Destiny?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like doing the math and just not at all thinking that I'm not going to get a Battle Destiny. I'm like, okay, power 5 plus a power draw plus a Battle Destiny, he's going to be forfeit 7. Like I'm okay with him hitting Shizor because I have a chance to do some overflow here. Like I should just take it. Yeah. So I finally talked myself into playing the Wounded Warrior, and then realize I don't get a Battle Destiny, so the math is not going to work out in my favor, and I'm still going to lose Shizor. And that took me like 2 turns to get over that mistake, because I was like, man, I just like really whiffed this hard. The other thing with not playing the Stunning Leader there is Shizor is off the table, and I needed Shizor to go be a pilot. This was around the time that I did have something special. I was getting First Light back, and so I was going to deploy it next turn, and I needed Shizor there to shuttle up, so I had somebody who could draw Destiny and be 9 forfeit with Shizor on a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so once Shizor dies, now like I didn't cause overflow. I wasted some red cards from my hand, and I have nobody to put on the First Light. So this was like, in my mind, this was like the do or die moment. I like next turn slam down First Light and just like move Maul over there with no gun. He was just like naked 8 forfeit, no Battle Destiny, and he had like 4 cards in his hand. And I was like, he's got to have, Outrider wasn't out yet. I was like, he's got to. Maybe I knew he already had the Outrider at that point. I can't remember if he had pulled it with a spin, or I just like knowing the number of use pile pulls he had already used, and this late in the game, like he's got to have Outrider.
Mm-hmm.
And then on his turn, he goes to flash Outrider or dash, one or the other, and I think it was it must have been Outrider. There's no dash, thankfully. I was just like seeing my life flash before my eyes, like, oh man, if Outrider comes down, like this is it, I'm done. And he didn't have dash, thankfully, but he did have two smugglers to go with the ship. This was like 3 out of the 4 cards in his hand, and he drew low enough that Maul covered exactly. I don't think I even took overflow. Maul covered exactly. First Light survived, and I was like, okay, like this is it. I got it from here. And you can watch the video if you want to. You can look at all this.
Now, I want to ask Greg, how did you survive the earthquake? Because I watched the video and like, fun, everything, like it was just terrible. How did you survive that earthquake at the end?
What was that when the camera went out?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a Brian Fred earthquake. It was so funny because, Brian Fred like bum rushed the table to give me a hug, and he knew he bumped into something. And then I think it was at some point on my 7-hour flight back home, I was going through some of the stream, and you could see when the camera just cuts out, I'm cracking up on the plane because I know that's when the Brian Fred is just like trampling people trying to get to the table to give me a hug. It was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Best earthquake I've ever experienced.
Glad you survived.
Imagine. So again, big congrats on taking it down this year, Greg. Glad to see it.
Thanks, man.
So, Carl, really quick, why don't we get into, again, you're now the new marketing advocate. You got big shoes to fill. How do you feel going into it?
I don't know what I signed up for, but I'm glad I did. So I had the privilege of being out in Seattle the week before Worlds, and Schoenthal and I were driving around, and we were driving to go get dinner, and he was like, so, Columbus went really well. And I was like, yeah, I was really proud of everything went. He goes like, how do you feel about your volunteering with like how everything's going? I was like, I'm willing to help out the PC any way I can. Okay, this was Tuesday. We didn't talk about anything else the rest of it. And so I'm like, that's a really odd question. So we're driving to lunch the next day, and I'm like, so I got to ask, like, why did you ask me about volunteers? He says, well, we've been having a conversation, and we wanted to see what your thoughts of doing this were. And then I said, yeah, I'd be happy to help out. Taking over for Jared is huge. Like he is set up such a good runway. And I said, anything I can do to help Mike and Scott and just help the PC. Cause like, I love and I talked about this in my tournament report. I'm really proud of like I'm not a scrub. I've made myself into a really good player, but like hosting Columbus, that was like one of the like most fun things I've ever done. And I've learned a lot from it, like, boundaries and, figuring out a few things, but just like the little ideas that can just I want to help sprinkle in to make the in-person online events as fun as they can possibly be, because that's the role I see Jared playing. And so when they asked me, would you want to do that? I was like, yes. So I'm excited, and I'm glad that I got to share with Greg privately, after he won Worlds, I've handed him an old fashioned. I said, "Hey Greg, you congratulations! I got some news to share with you." And so we had a nice moment there, and I'm looking forward to it. And Greg, you're a world champion now, but you're also now a member of the Fox in the Snow T-shirt club.
Oh,
It's on its way.
I'm so excited. Wait, one more thing that I got to mention. Very happy to get my Fox in the Snow shirt. My girlfriend will be very happy to get one too. I also have to thank her. If you can see this, she gave me this card that I kept in my pocket all weekend long. It says "Kick Butt Today," with a little note inside, and I also attribute some of my success to the good luck note from my girlfriend Michelle. Thanks, Michelle.
There you go.
Yeah, Carl, you said you're excited to be in this role. I think we're all excited. You're just such an asset to the game and to the community. And when I heard the news, I was not really surprised because it made sense hearing it. Like, duh.
I was surprised.
Of course, Carl should be an advocate. Well, in hindsight, yeah, it's like obvious. This is an obvious decision, but it was very cool to hear that it happened. I don't think that it's common for somebody to be this like fresh to the community and have as big of an impact as you have had, and so you might be excited, but I could say that we're all excited to have you.
I mean, to be fair, while you were talking about your recap, in this handy dandy notebook that we got at Worlds as part of our swag, I wrote down like 3 items for like things we should do for prize support next year. So,
Wow. Never stops grinding.
No.
I mean, listen, I have said this so many times. Like, I'm so thankful I found this community. Like, just the people I've met, the relationships, like hearing these stories. Last night I was flying down here to Florida. I listened to the first 3 hours of the Kessling run, and like, I was explaining to my wife. She was like, "Why do you want to listen to Brian just talk and talk and talk?" I said, "It's fascinating. One, he has a memory of the game like I cannot believe, and he's still talking about games from 1996.
He's seen it all.
He has." And I also texted Mike and I said, "How did you get through it?" He said, "It was a lot of fun, but yes."
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of this at this point is just more fun than anything.
Yeah. And so like we're trying to find out ways to incentivize getting our Twitch subscriptions back up. So anybody who's watching this, watches the replay, please like try to do this. I'm gonna be sending around to try and get some ideas of what would be, an incentive to get you to do that monthly free subscription on Prime if you have it. And we've already been kicking around some ideas for squadrons. We've already figured out that for 2026. I'm going to be working on, prize support for leagues and online events and trying to make inroads with the retro community, which is like an area that I don't have a ton of relationship with, but I want to learn and grow. And I mean, look at the play mats that we need to give a lot of like credit to Andy Talaga. Look, those look amazing, right? So like, those ideas, and then I'm not afraid to send out an email. Like everyone talks about the t-shirts that I gave out in Ohio. That's simply because I just sent an email and said, "Hey, we're doing this nerdy thing," and they're like, "That's amazing, here's some stuff." So it's like just a little bit of time, right? So I'm gonna try and find a way to like make some of the events next year like a little bit regional themed and try to come up with some local flair. That's my hope. But Jared is a giant, and all I hope to do is not screw it up.
You're going to do great.
Yeah, I think we all know you'll do great. So I think at this point, I do want to thank you both for being on tonight. It is always a pleasure. Greg, again, big congrats to you, sir. Carl, great to see you. I'm looking forward to seeing what you produce. I know I missed the line, but come on.
Nah, it's okay. I'm just glad. And Greg, thanks for letting me be on, because I just realized this is the second time we've been on doing Holotheatre together.
Well, thank you for letting me be on.
No, you're the world champ. I'm just a dude.
Well,
no, it's always a pleasure, Dan. Thanks for doing this.
Yes.
Love chatting with you guys.
Yeah.
Let's do it sometime. Maybe same time next year.
We'll see. Maybe
we'll talk about Dan's world championship.
I was going to say we'll talk about Carl's.
Well, no, you called me out and said that I'm just going to play bad now. I was
actually,
like,
yeah, you're an advocate now. You're not allowed to win anything.
Yeah, that's why Mike stepped down. he got
down.
tired of not making top 8, so he's like, I'm just going to step down from the advocacy.
I don't think that's true.
Shush. Okay, everybody.
So Dan lives his own truth. All right.
I do.
All right.
So again, thank you both for joining. Thank you all for watching. It is always a pleasure. Until next time, everybody, be safe out there. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow night for Joe Olson versus Justin Desai for the OCS Championship. It is just the top 16. It's the championship, but top 16 match. So until then, everybody, take care of yourselves. Be safe. And as always, may the force be with you.